Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a rare Sunday drop from the Fiscal Philosophy YouTube channel. We have, unfortunately, learned that Prospect Medical has filed for bankruptcy. What does this mean for Medical Properties Trust, who is the landlord for many of the hospitals that they operate? Well, this has come about because, one, a proposed hospital sale in Connecticut to the Yale New Haven Health System has been held up by them trying to back out of the deal. It was worth roughly $400 and some million back in 2022. However, unfortunately, this has been held up in court, and who knows when or if that will ever go through. Second, of course, is that they're stuck waiting again for the managed care business to close, which there is an agreement in place to sell that, but never count your chickens before they're hatched. Unfortunately, it seems that any hospitals operating in the Northeast seem to be a drag on these healthcare systems versus hospitals operated in the Southwest, which seem to perform quite well. We saw this with other health systems that have been struggling in the past. And at the moment, it looks like they have performing hospitals in California that probably are going to stay afloat. Compared to Steward, who went bankrupt last year, Prospect is a much smaller entity. So this situation, and I said this before, worst case, yes, they do go bankrupt like Steward did, but it's such a smaller thing than Steward that it shouldn't be as dramatic and horrific. We hope, much more manageable. There have been prior bankruptcies at tenants of MPW before, and they resolved in a way that was a lot more favorable than how Steward ended up. Steward was a quagmire. Hopefully this will be less of one, so to speak. Now, the Yahoo message boards, folks, they seem to have an interesting take here. The people on my Discord read the Yahoo message boards so that I don't have to, sharing anything interesting that they find. By the way, Discord is linked in the description below. I do encourage you to hop in there if you're not already, since we have ongoing conversations about this stock and others all the time. So this gentleman, Butter, says that before we're going to watch football, Yale has $460 million in escrow. There was a reason that the deal was being done originally. Hospitals negotiate their own reimbursements. This would have meant hundreds of millions in additional reimbursements for their network. The governor said they're working on replacements. Yale has been approved and would be the timeliest option. Others are apparently waiting. And there is a reason that Yale has zero comment. Apparently, Yale hasn't said anything about this issue at the moment. They are apparently, according to this person, deep in negotiations, or that's how they're reading the situation. And they're expecting MPT to release a press release tomorrow morning. And by the way, they do say if that happens, so they're not saying it's a sure thing, but if that happens, they think the stock goes to $6 tomorrow. I'm actually anticipating probably a drop tomorrow, probably a pretty dramatic one. Unless, of course, yes, like some other really big thing comes out. I'm just not convinced that this is all going to be wrapped up in a neat little bow tomorrow. But be sure to let me know what you think in the comments. Also, an imminent debt maturity has been a subject of much chatter. We have, I believe it's the 2025 Great British Pound term loan, which comes out to about $700 million, coming due on the 17th, which is this coming Friday. Technically speaking, if we look at the cash on hand plus the room they have left in the credit facility, they could draw from that revolving credit line combined with the cash they have on hand and pay that off if they have to. Now, the credit revolver has a higher interest rate, so the hope would be that they get the liquidity from elsewhere, something that they don't have to pay interest on, either a sale closing, something like that, or some other rabbit out of the hat situation like that Utah deal they did last year. Something that raises some money like this that they can wipe away this debt with and move on to other things. However, the lack of any news on this has made a lot of people uneasy. Personally, I don't think that they're defaulting on the debt. That you've heard some people say they're in default. That's very likely not true. And I mean, granted, like, why would they default if they have room in the revolver and cash on hand in order to pay it off? It just doesn't make sense, right? But I do think that, hey, if they had to refinance it at a much higher interest rate, that wouldn't be great. Even if they had to lean on the revolver real hard, that wouldn't be like the best case scenario. So I'm interested to see what their debt structure looks like on the next earnings release, unless we get a press release earlier that tells us what they did to raise the money to pay this off, which would be good. I would appreciate the transparency, after all, since that's one of the big criticisms, is they're not transparent enough. If you made it to the end, I'd like to thank you very much. I'd also like to remind you, like the video for the algorithm, subscribe if you have not already. Discord's linked in the description. I've spent a good part of the day in different discussions on MPW after this news dropped in there, which is where I got some of the insights that you saw in the video. So thanks, as always, to the people in Discord for an engaging conversation. That's the whole purpose of this channel, is to have engaging conversations around investing. Make sure that you also consider following me on Twitter at Mr. Macho Mog. You can catch me every Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, Cashflow Kings Live, for a live show where we have people call in, people live chatting throughout the show. It's a good time, everybody. No better place to be, 8 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. Take it easy, everyone.